Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.
In Bosnia, a muezzin calls the faithful Muslims to prayer. It's the same call that sounds 5 times a day in cities and villages all over the world. Over 1/4 of the people on earth respond to it, bound together by the enduring spirit of submission to the will of God, or what is better known by its Arabic name, Islam. But have you ever wondered, why do they make this call? What is the significance of this call? Where did they get the idea for making this call from? What is the guy actually saying when he makes the call? In this episode, we will explore what is known as the Azzan. Where did it come from, and what is its meaning? So let's go back to the beginning. In the time of Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, when it was revealed that the believers should worship God in the physical form 5 times a day. So what they used to do was sit together with Prophet Muhammad and discuss, what should we do to remind the people that it's time to pray? Someone suggested, let's raise a flag, and when it's prayer time, everybody will see the flag waving and they'll know that it's time to pray. But nobody really agreed with that. It's not really the Muslim way to be patriotic. So someone else suggested, well, we could light a fire, and we could make a big fire, and when it's time to pray, people will see the smoke signal from far off, and they'll know that when they see these smoke signals, that it's time to pray, time to come worship God. But they didn't really agree with that. We don't really like fires. So someone else said, what if we blew a horn? And they said, no, that's what the Jews do, and that's their way of doing things. So, let's do something different. So someone else said, well, what if we ring a bell? We could have a big bell, and when it's time to come worship, we could hit on this bell, and everybody hears the bell from a distance, and they'll know, okay, it's time to come worship. And they kicked that idea around, and they said, no, that's the Christians' thing. That's what they do. And so somebody finally said, well, why don't we just call the people? We could just call them. Instead of doing all this stuff, why don't we just call them? Just use a human voice. We can just have somebody that goes around and call the people, time for prayer, whatever, time to come worship. We could have somebody appoint some people to go around through the neighborhoods and, like the neighborhood crier, and tell the people it's time to come pray. Prayers coming up, etc. So that's what they finally agreed to do. And they did this for a few days, and it wasn't very long, but a few days. There was a man by the name of Abdullah ibn Zayd al-Ansari. He was one of the companions of the Prophet, and he used to walk around through the villages, and when it was just before time for prayer, and he would go and remind the people that look, it's time to come pray, time to come worship God. And he didn't really have any certain phrase or anything that he said, but, he would just go around calling the people to come pray. And so what happened was, after he had done this for a few days, he had a dream one night. And in the dream, a man came to him and said, "Hey, when you call the people to worship, you need to say these words." And the words that the man taught him in the dream was, "God is most great. God is the most great. I testify that there is none worthy of worship except the Creator, the one God, God Almighty, the Creator of heavens and earth. Come and pray. Come and pray. And when you come and pray, you will have success. So come to success. God is great. God is definitely the greatest. Don't worship anyone except the Almighty, the one true God." And so when he woke up, this dream really, resonated with him, and he woke up and, he couldn't shake it. So he decided to go talk to the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. He decided to go talk to the Prophet Muhammad and tell him about this dream that he had, this vivid dream where this man came to him and gave him, this poetic saying that he should be calling the people to pray with. So he went and told the Prophet about this. "Look, I had this dream, and in this dream, this man came and told me these words." And he told the words that the man taught him in the dream to the Prophet. And the Prophet told him, he said, "What you had was a true dream from God, because I have already been given revelation with the same exact words." And the Prophet told him, he said, "Go teach this to Bilal, because he has a beautiful melodious voice, and his voice is louder than yours." So who is this Bilal character? Bilal was one of the early converts to Islam, originally from Ethiopia. He was a slave to one of the pagan Arabs, and when he accepted the message of Islam, or submission to the will of God, his master began to torture him. They used to set big boulders on his chest and demand that, he recant his belief in the one God, because, of course, the pagan Arabs, they had many gods, they worship idols and so forth. And this idea of worshiping one God, his master wasn't having that. Look, you belong to me, and you're going to worship whatever God I tell you to worship. So they were setting big boulders on his chest. They had him staked out in the hot sun, and they were setting big boulders on his chest and telling him to recant, and he wouldn't recant. He just kept saying, "One God, one God." And so they'd set another boulder on top of that one. "One God, one God." He wouldn't back down. He was not giving up. He believed that God is one, and he should be worshipped alone, and he shouldn't be worshiping these idols. So when the Muslims found out about this, they went and paid his master for his freedom. And so he was freed, and he became one of the companions of the Prophet. So anyways, he was known for his beautiful, sonorous voice. He had a very sonorous voice that would carry. And so he was the very first person who began making this call to prayer. And along with a blind man, Ibn Maktub. And together, both of these used to, at the time of the Prophet, used to call the people to pray. And up until today, that melody can be heard in almost every country on earth. The original melody that came from this dream from God, and they taught it to Bilal because he had the best voice. He would climb up on a high place on top of the building or someplace high. He would go and climb up, and he would recite this, what we call the Azzan, the call to prayer, calling the worshipers of God to come and pray, come and worship God. Now, the early morning prayer starts before sunrise. And Bilal added to that particular call, the early morning call, prayer is better than sleep. Prayer is better for you than sleep. God is great. God is the most great. There is no God worthy of worship except the Almighty. And so up to today, still for the early morning prayer, we say those words after the call.
حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الصلاة خير من النوم الصلاة خير من النوم الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
We got this first step. 5:18 in the morning, Azzan is currently going off. Part that I love when it goes as-salatu khayrun min an-nawm. That just slaps you, bro. I be in my room and I be free.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
Now, the rewards for calling the people to pray is that everyone who comes to pray, the muezzin will receive one reward for each person who answers his call. And also the birds and nature will testify on his behalf on the day of judgment that this person is used to call people to worship you, O God. Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, if the people truly understood the reward for calling people to pray, they would have to draw lots in order to have a turn doing it. And on the day of judgment, the muezzin, or caller to prayer, will be given, all the muezzin will be given elongated necks on that day in which people will be drowning in their sins. And Prophet Muhammad relayed to us that people on Judgment Day, according to how much they sinned, their sins will pool around them like the sweat from their body would pool around them according to how much they sinned. And some people will be up to their knees in it. Other people would be up to their waist in it. And still some people, it would be up to their noses and mouths and over their heads, and they'll be drowning in their sins according to how they sinned. But the muezzin, his neck will be elongated on that day. And also on Judgment Day, that melody which the muezzins called the people to prayer will be heard on Judgment Day, that they used to call. So definitely a great reward for those people who many of them spent their entire lives 5 times a day reminding people to come and worship the Creator, God Almighty. And God never neglects those who obey and worship Him and who call other people to worship Him. So coming up next, we are going to visit a brother from Bosnia. They said he began calling his neighborhood to prayer around the age of 12 years old. He would climb to the top of the minaret and call the neighborhood to prayer. And a lot of people commented on the video that they remember growing up and hearing him their whole life, calling them to prayer. Even sometimes when the power went out, he would faithfully wake them up. They didn't have to worry about an alarm clock because he would wake them up and call them to prayer. He did this from the time he was 12 years old until the time he was around 85 years old. And also in Bosnia, they're a little bit more traditional and they don't use microphones. The muezzin doesn't use a microphone. He simply, like back in the time of the Prophet, the old days, climb up somewhere high so the whole neighborhood can hear you, and just at the top of your voice call everyone to prayer. So check this video out.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر الله.
So in a Muslim community or in a Muslim country, there are mosques and prayer halls pretty much in every neighborhood. And Muslim men are required to pray in the mosque during the day if they're within walking distance of it. So sometimes in Muslim countries, there'll be several mosques within the same vicinity of each other so that people can walk to them easily, within 5 minutes or less, and receive the rewards for praying in the mosque. And usually when the time of prayer comes, depending on how many mosques are in the area, it can sound quite loud. It always reminds me of roosters, like in the morning if you have several roosters, just before dawn when they wake up and start crowing. It's kind of the same effect. It almost sounds like they're, competing with each other to be heard. But this is a very common sound effect in many Muslim countries. And Turkey kind of revolutionized this because obviously they thrive on tourist trade quite a bit there. And the non-Muslims would come and hear all this noise and be like, what in the world is going on, So Turkey revolutionized this by setting up a academy for the muezzins to teach them all to practice so they could have a good tune, and also to teach each mosque to coordinate when they make the call so they're not calling over top of one another. So the next video I'm going to show you is a video from Cyprus, just a typical, what it sounds like in a typical Muslim country where they have not implemented the style that Turkey does, where the muezzins alternate with each other. So this is what it typically sounds like, and then after that we'll go to some cities in Turkey where the muezzins actually coordinate with one another to make the call to prayer. Check it out. I said Cyprus, but it's actually Macedonia. To me, it sounds beautiful still, but I mean, I guess I can understand if you're coming from a different religion, a different culture, you know, it probably just sounds like everybody's crying and you don't know what they're saying or what's going on or the significance of it. But I still think it's very beautiful. So here we're going to a city in Turkey, and you'll see these two mosques are actually, the muezzins are coordinating with each other. This guy here in the blue is coordinating with the blue mosque, which I'll show you in a second. Okay, this is the other mosque here. So there's another muezzin in this mosque here, and they're coordinating with each other instead of singing over top of each other. So the next clip, we'll see actually a kind of like a practice session where they are actually practicing side by side, so you get a better idea of how they actually learn to do this. Check it out.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله.
One thing I gotta say is these guys from Turkey really just have amazing voices. It's kind of like the same level as, you know, people who sing like opera and so on. They really have a really unique, amazing voices and really unique trills that they do just so effortlessly. It's just very amazing. So I won't keep you because I could just go on and on with this forever. There's so many beautiful muezzins that we could listen to and check out. I'll just show you one more. Before I let you go, I got to show you this one brother in Egypt who's 97 years old. And he's still making the call to prayer. And may God bless us all to have such health when we reach 97. This guy is blind, and he kind of reminds me a lot of the blind muezzin who used to call for the prophet back in his day. So let's check him out. He's also got a very amazing voice. So let's check him out, and then I'll let you go.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة